Welcome back to the channel, US Rare Coins News, Top 1. What if I told you a single quarter sitting in your pocket right now could be worth thousands, and most people don't even notice it until it's too late? It looks completely ordinary at first, just a worn silver-colored quarter with the date 1776 to 1976 stamped on the front, the kind you've probably seen in change jars, old drawers, or even under car seats without a second thought. But this coin has a secret that keeps sending collectors into a frenzy. Picture this: a guy in Ohio is sorting through a coffee can full of old change his grandfather left behind, mostly pennies, a few nicked-up dimes, and then this dull-looking quarter with a drummer boy on the back. Nothing special. He almost tosses it aside, almost. But something feels off. The shine is different, the strike looks sharper than the rest, so he looks it up, and that's when everything changes. Because certain versions of the 1776 to 1976 Washington Bicentennial quarter have rare mint errors and special silver compositions that collectors will fight over, and some have sold for hundreds, even thousands of dollars depending on condition and rarity. Now here's where it gets wild: most of these coins were mass-produced, meaning millions exist, but the ones that slip through with specific errors or silver proofs are the ones people miss every single day, sitting forgotten in jars like they're worthless change, until someone who knows what to look for strikes gold. So how do you check it? First, look at the date. It must say 1776 to 1976. Next, flip it over and study the drummer boy design closely. If it looks extra sharp, almost frosted with deep mirror-like shine on the background, you might be holding a silver-proof version, not the common copper-nickel one. Then check the edge. This is where most people mess up. A regular quarter has a copper-colored stripe along the edge, but some rare silver versions do not. They appear solid silver all the way around. That tiny detail alone can change everything. Now hold it under light and slowly tilt it. If the design seems doubled or slightly shifted, that could be a mint error called double die, and collectors go crazy for that because it means the coin slipped through production in a flawed state, making it rare by accident. And here's the part nobody realizes: these coins are still out there, mixed into everyday circulation, in old piggy banks, in desk drawers, even in vending machine returns, because most people assume a quarter is just 25 cents and never look closer. That's why this matters right now, because everyday people are cashing these in unknowingly at face value, while others are finding the exact same coin and walking away with hundreds or even thousands depending on grading and demand. Imagine finding out the quarter you used for parking, or gave to a cashier without thinking, could have paid for your next vacation, or a full month of rent. That's the kind of moment collectors talk about like a legend. And if you're holding one right now, don't rush it, don't clean it, don't scratch it. Even the smallest damage can drop its value instantly. Instead, compare it carefully, because the difference between ordinary and rare is often just one tiny detail you almost miss. But here's the real twist: the 1776 to 1976 quarter is only the beginning. There are even rarer error coins hiding in plain sight that can turn pocket change into life-changing money, and in the next video, I'm going to show you one that most people have never even heard of, and it might be sitting closer to you than you think. Top 2. Wait, are you seriously telling me a beat-up 1965 quarter could be worth more than a stack of $100 bills? Because that's exactly what just happened, and it's not a rumor. It starts with a coin you've seen 1,000 times, a dull, scratched, completely average-looking 1965 Washington quarter. No shine, no sparkle, the kind you drop into a vending machine without even looking twice. Nothing about it screams valuable, and that's exactly why it gets missed. But here's the twist. 1965 was chaos at the US Mint. It was the first year they switched away from real silver, meaning almost every quarter that year was made with cheap copper nickel, so people stopped paying attention. They assumed silver was gone forever, and that assumption is where the hidden treasure begins. Because during that transition, something slipped. A few quarters were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver blanks from 1964, not supposed to exist, not supposed to leave the mint, but they did, and today those mistakes are some of the most hunted coins in America. Now imagine this: a woman in Texas is sorting through her late father's coin jar, nothing fancy, just decades of pocket change. She almost dumps them into a Coinstar machine, almost, but one coin catches her eye. It looks slightly brighter, slightly heavier, like it doesn't belong with the others. She hesitates, takes a closer look, and that tiny moment changes everything, because that ordinary 1965 quarter turns out to be struck on a silver planchet, and after authentication, it sells for thousands of dollars, from a coin most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up. So here's what you need to do, right now: go grab any 1965 quarter you can find, your wallet, your car, that random jar in your kitchen. Don't overthink it, just look. First, check the edge. This is the fastest test. A normal 1965 quarter has a visible copper stripe running through the middle of the edge, like a sandwich, but if your coin looks solid silver all the way around with no brown line, stop, don't spend it. That's your first red flag. Next, hold it in your hand and feel it. Sounds weird, but silver coins have a different presence, slightly heavier, slightly smoother, almost like they glide instead of clink, and if you gently tap it against another coin, the sound is softer, more musical, not dull and flat. Now bring it under a bright light, tilt it slowly, look at Washington's face, the hair, the lettering. If the details seem unusually crisp for a circulated coin, like it was struck with extra care, that could mean you're holding something far from ordinary. Here's the part that keeps collectors up at night: these coins are still out there, mixed in with billions of regular quarters, hiding in plain sight, because no one expects a 1965 to be special, so they don't check, they just spend. Think about how many times you've handled change this week, how many quarters passed through your hands, how many you ignored. What if one of them was the one people are searching for right now? And don't make the mistake that ruins it. Don't clean the coin, don't polish it. Even a tiny scratch or cleaning mark can slash its value instantly. Leave it exactly as you found it and get it checked if it matches the signs. Because the difference between 25 cents and thousands of dollars could come down to one thin copper line, or the absence of it, something most people never even notice. But here's where it gets even crazier. There's another quarter from around this exact same era, even rarer, even more valuable, a coin so unusual that when collectors find it, they don't just sell it, they remember the moment for the rest of their lives, and chances are, you've seen one before and didn't even realize it. Top 3, wait, a 1966 quarter, the one you'd never even bother picking up twice, just sold for thousands, and the craziest part, it might look exactly like the one sitting in your pocket right now. At first glance, it's nothing, just a flat, worn-out 1966 Washington quarter, no mint mark, no flashy design, no silver shine, just that dull gray look that screams, "Spend me," the kind of coin people ignore every single day without a second thought. But here's the twist that flips everything. 1966 sits right in the middle of one of the most chaotic periods in U.S. coin history. The mint had just switched away from silver, machines were being pushed to their limits, and mistakes, real mistakes, started slipping through. Now picture this: a guy in Florida is going through loose change after a long road trip, fast food receipts, gas station coins, nothing exciting, until he notices one quarter feels different, not brighter, not cleaner, just off, like it doesn't belong with the rest. He almost ignores it, almost tosses it back into the pile, but curiosity kicks in. He checks the edge, and that's when his heart skips, because instead of that normal copper stripe, it looks nearly solid, like a faint silver glow wrapping all the way around. That's when things get serious, because while most 1966 quarters are copper nickel, a tiny number were struck on leftover silver planchets, coins that were never supposed to exist, and when they do show up, collectors go absolutely wild for them. So here's exactly what you need to do: grab any 1966 quarter you can find right now, don't overthink it, just hold it, and go straight to the edge. If you see that brownish copper line sandwiched in the middle, it's common, but if that line is missing, or barely visible, stop, you might be holding something rare. Next, tilt the coin under a bright light, slowly, watch how it reflects. A normal coin looks kind of dull and flat, but a rare one, especially a silver error, can have a softer, almost glowing reflection, like light moves across it instead of bouncing off harshly. Now look closely at Washington's face, the hair details, the lettering. If the features seem sharper than you'd expect for an old circulated coin, almost like it was struck cleaner or deeper, that's another clue stacking in your favor. And here's something most people never think about, listen to it, gently tap it against another coin. A regular quarter gives a short, flat click, but a silver-based coin can produce a slightly higher, more ringing tone, subtle, but once you hear it, you don't forget it. This is exactly how that Florida find turned into a payday. That one weird quarter got authenticated, confirmed as a rare transitional silver error, and depending on condition, coins like that have reached into the thousands, all from something pulled out of road trip change. Now let this sink in, millions of people handle quarters every day, vending machines, grocery stores, parking meters, and almost nobody checks the year 1966, because they assume it's worthless, and that assumption is exactly why these coins keep slipping through unnoticed. Think about your own life, that jar in your kitchen, that cup holder in your car, that pile of coins you keep meaning to sort. What if one of them is the coin collectors are hunting right now, and you've been ignoring it this whole time? And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it shiny, because the moment you alter the surface, you can destroy the very value that makes it special. Leave it exactly as it is and get it checked if the signs line up. Because the difference between a forgettable 25 cents, and a coin worth thousands, can come down to one tiny missing copper line, one slight weight difference, one moment of curiosity that most people never act on. But here's the part that should really grab you, the 1966 quarter isn't even the rarest surprise hiding in your change. There's another coin, even stranger, even more valuable, that experts say shows up when you least expect it, and when it does, it doesn't just shock you, it changes everything. Top 4, wait, a 1967 quarter, the one people ignore every single day, just turned into thousands of dollars, and the craziest part is, it didn't look special at all. It looked like every other coin, dull, worn down, maybe a little scratched from years of being passed from hand to hand, the kind of quarter you wouldn't even bother picking up if you dropped it on the ground, nothing shiny, nothing rare, just ordinary. But that's exactly where the story begins, because 1967 sits right in the middle of one of the strangest periods in U.S. coin history, no mint marks, massive production, total confusion at the mint, and hidden among millions of normal coins, a few mistakes slipped through that were never supposed to exist. Picture this. A college student in Illinois is digging through loose change to do laundry, quarters scattered everywhere, most of them the same boring look, until one catches his eye, not because it's shiny, but because it feels different, heavier, almost like it doesn't belong in the pile. He pauses, flips it over, stares at it a little longer than usual, and something just feels off, not obvious, just enough to make him curious instead of careless, and that tiny moment of curiosity is what changes everything. Because here's the hidden truth, while most 1967 quarters are copper nickel, a few were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets, just like the years before, coins that should have never been made, never released, but somehow escaped into circulation. And when those coins show up today, collectors don't just want them, they compete for them, because they represent a mistake in history, a glitch in the system, and depending on condition, they can sell for hundreds, even thousands of dollars. So now it's your turn, go grab a 1967 quarter, right now, don't wait, check your wallet, your car, that random jar you keep ignoring, because what you're about to look for could change everything. Start with the edge, this is the fastest giveaway, a normal quarter shows a clear copper stripe running through the middle, but if your 1967 quarter looks solid, almost completely silver around the edge, with no brown line, stop right there, that's your first major signal. Next, hold it flat in your palm, feel the weight, a silver-based coin often feels just slightly heavier, more solid, like it has presence, not something you can always measure, but something you can definitely notice when you compare. Now bring it under a light, tilt it slowly, watch how it reflects. A regular coin looks dull, kind of lifeless, but a rare one can have a softer glow, almost like light slides across its surface instead of bouncing harshly. Then focus on the details. Washington's hair, the lettering, the eagle on the back, if everything looks unusually sharp for an old coin, like it was struck cleaner than it should be, that's another clue stacking up. And here's a trick most people never try, listen to it, gently tap it against another coin, A normal quarter gives a short, flat click, but a silver error coin can ring slightly, a higher, cleaner tone, subtle, but once you hear it, you can't unhear it. That college student, the one sorting laundry money, he followed these exact signs, sent the coin in for verification, and what came back wasn't just confirmation, it was a payout, turning spare change into thousands, all because he didn't ignore that tiny feeling that something was different. And here's what should really hit you: coins like this are still out there, right now, being spent, being ignored, being dropped into machines, because people assume every 1967 quarter is the same, and that assumption is where the opportunity lives. Think about how many quarters you've handled this week alone, how many you didn't even look at, how many could have had that one missing copper line, that one hidden detail, that one chance you almost took but didn't. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it look better, because the moment you mess with the surface, you can erase the very thing that makes it valuable, leave it exactly as it is. Because the difference between pocket change and a four-figure coin can come down to a single glance at the edge, a single second of curiosity, a single decision to check instead of ignore. But here's where things get even more unbelievable: there's another quarter, from around this same era, even rarer than the 1967, a coin so unexpected that when people find it, they don't believe it's real at first, and chances are, one has passed through your hands before without you even noticing. Top 5, wait, are you ready for this? A plain-looking 1973 quarter, the kind people toss into parking meters without thinking, has shocked collectors by selling for thousands, and almost nobody knows why. It doesn't look rare, not even close, it's that familiar Washington face, a little worn, maybe a few scratches, the eagle on the back faded from years of use, nothing flashy, nothing that screams value, just another coin you'd ignore in your pocket. But here's where things get interesting. 1973 seems like a boring year for quarters, no big design change, no silver, nothing special, and that's exactly why the rare ones hide so well, because nobody bothers to look twice. Picture this: a man in Arizona is cleaning out an old piggy bank his kids used years ago, coins spill everywhere, mostly pennies and nickels, and then a small pile of quarters. He almost cashes them in, almost, but one 1973 coin catches his attention for just a second longer than the rest. Not because it's shiny, but because something about it feels sharper, cleaner, like the details haven't been worn down the same way, and that tiny hesitation, that one extra look, is where everything changes. Because hidden among millions of 1973 quarters, there are rare error coins, coins struck with double dies, off-center strikes, and even high-grade examples so perfectly preserved that collectors will pay insane amounts to own them. Now here's what you need to do: grab a 1973 quarter right now, don't wait, check your change, your drawers, your car, because what you're about to look for is so subtle, most people miss it completely. First, look closely at the date, the numbers, 1973, if they appear slightly doubled, like there's a shadow or a second outline, especially around the edges of the numbers, that could be a double die error, and that's a huge deal in the coin world. Next, move to the word Liberty, tilt the coin under a light, slowly. If the letters look thick, slightly duplicated, or blurry in a way that doesn't match normal wear, that's another sign you might be holding something rare. Now flip the coin over, look at the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If the details look unusually sharp, almost like the coin hasn't been in circulation at all, you might be dealing with a high-grade coin, and condition alone can push value into the hundreds or even thousands. Here's something most people overlook: check if the design is perfectly centered, or slightly off. If the image looks shifted, with uneven spacing around the edges, that's called an off-center strike, and depending on how dramatic it is, collectors go crazy for those errors. And don't forget the edge. While 1973 quarters are supposed to show that copper stripe, sometimes errors or unusual planchets can make things look different. Anything unusual here is worth a second look. This is exactly how that Arizona find turned into something unbelievable. That one different quarter, the one he almost ignored, turned out to have a noticeable doubling in exceptional condition. After grading and auction, it brought in thousands, from a coin sitting in a child's piggy bank for years. Let that sink in. Coins like this are still out there, hiding in plain sight, because people assume anything from the 1970s is common, worthless, not worth checking, and that assumption is exactly why these rare pieces keep slipping through. Think about how many times you've handled quarters this week, how many you didn't even glance at, how many could have had that tiny doubling, that slight misprint, that one detail separating it from being ordinary. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't try to fix it. Collectors want the coin exactly as it is. Even a small scratch from cleaning can destroy the value instantly. Leave it untouched. Because the difference between 25 cents and a coin worth thousands can come down to a tiny shift in the design, a barely visible doubling, a detail most people would never notice unless they knew exactly what to look for. But here's the part that should really grab your attention: the 1973 quarter is just scratching the surface. There's another coin, even more shocking, even more valuable, hiding in plain sight, and when people find it, they don't just get excited, they can't believe they missed it for so long. Top 6, wait, a 1974 quarter, the one people literally ignore every day, just stunned collectors by selling for thousands, and it didn't even look special at first glance. It looked like every other quarter, dull gray, slightly worn edges, maybe a few scratches from years of being passed around, the eagle on the back fading just a little, nothing shiny, nothing rare, just a coin you'd spend without thinking twice. But here's the part nobody tells you. 1974 is one of those years where rare errors hide in plain sight, buried inside millions of ordinary coins, and unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll never notice the difference. Imagine this: a woman in California is cleaning out her kitchen drawer, you know the one, full of random things, batteries, receipts, loose change. She scoops up a handful of quarters and almost drops them into a coin machine, almost, until one 1974 coin makes her pause. Not because it's shiny, not because it's new, but because something about the lettering looks strange, like it's been printed twice, just slightly, just enough to make her look again instead of moving on. And that tiny decision, that one extra second, is what turns everything around, because what she found is something collectors call a double die error, and in the world of coins, that's like finding a hidden glitch in reality. Now here's what you need to do: go grab a 1974 quarter right now, don't wait, check your wallet, your car, that jar you've been ignoring for years, because what you're about to look for is so subtle, most people miss it completely. Start with the date. 1974, look closely at the numbers, especially the 7 and the 4, if you see a slight shadow, a second outline, or a doubling effect that looks like the numbers were stamped twice, that's your first major clue. Next, check the word Liberty, tilt the coin under a light, slowly. If the letters look thicker than normal, or slightly duplicated, almost like they're vibrating, that's another strong sign of a double die. Now move to In God We Trust. This is where things get interesting. On some rare coins, the doubling is even more noticeable here, especially around the edges of the letters, giving them a bold, almost layered appearance. Flip the coin over, study the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If the details look unusually sharp or slightly doubled in places, that's more evidence stacking up that your coin isn't ordinary. And here's something most people overlook: condition matters a lot. Even a normal 1974 quarter in near perfect condition, with crisp details and almost no wear, can sell for surprising amounts, because collectors want the best of the best. That California find, the one from the kitchen drawer, turned out to be a confirmed double die with strong details. After grading and auction, it didn't just bring in a few extra dollars, it reached into the thousands, all from a coin that was seconds away from being cashed in. Let that sink in for a second. Coins like this are still out there, right now, being spent, ignored, dropped into machines, because people assume anything from the 1970s is common, and that assumption is where the opportunity lives. Think about how many times you've handled quarters this week, how many you didn't even look at, how many could have had that tiny doubling, that one hidden detail separating it from being just another coin. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it look better, because the moment you touch the surface the wrong way, you can destroy the value completely. Leave it exactly as it is. Because the difference between 25 cents and thousands of dollars can come down to a barely visible shadow on a number, a tiny shift in a letter, something most people would never notice unless they stopped and really looked. But here's where things get even more unbelievable. The 1974 quarter isn't even the rarest surprise hiding in your change. There's another coin, even harder to spot, even more valuable, and when people finally recognize it, they realize it's been right in front of them the whole time. Top 7. Wait, are you seriously telling me a random 1977 quarter, the kind people ignore every single day, just sold for thousands of dollars, and nobody noticed it until the very last second? It looks completely ordinary, a 1977 Washington quarter, dull gray, worn edges, maybe a few scratches from decades of use, nothing flashy, nothing rare looking, just another coin sitting in your pocket right now without you even thinking about it. But here's the twist that makes collectors stop in their tracks. 1977 is one of those years where the rare ones don't stand out, they blend in perfectly, hiding among millions of normal coins, and unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll never see it. Picture this, a retired mechanic in Michigan is sorting through a jar of spare change he's been collecting for years, oil-stained hands, old coins piled up, nothing special, until one 1977 quarter catches his eye, not because it shines, but because something about it looks off. He leans in, squints a little, and notices the date, the 1977, looks thicker than usual, almost like it's been stamped twice, just slightly, just enough to make him pause instead of tossing it back into the pile. That tiny pause, that one moment of curiosity, is where everything changes, because what he's looking at could be a double die error, one of the most sought-after mint mistakes, where the design was accidentally imprinted twice during production. Now here's exactly what you need to do, go grab a 1977 quarter right now, don't wait, check your wallet, your car, your kitchen drawer, because what you're about to look for is so subtle, most people miss it completely. Start with the date. 1977, hold the coin under a bright light and tilt it slowly. If you see a shadow effect, a second outline, or a slight doubling on the numbers, especially around the edges, that's your first big clue. Next, move to the word Liberty. This is where things get even more interesting. Look closely at each letter. If they appear thicker than normal, or slightly duplicated, like there's a faint echo behind them, that's another strong sign. Now check In God We Trust. On some rare versions, the doubling shows up clearly here, making the letters look bold, layered, almost like they're stacked on top of each other. Flip the coin over, study the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If the details seem sharper than expected, or show any signs of doubling, that's more evidence building that your coin isn't ordinary. And don't forget this, condition matters more than most people realize. Even a normal 1977 quarter in near perfect condition, with crisp details and almost no wear, can sell for surprising amounts because collectors want the cleanest examples possible. That mechanic, the one with the jar of coins, he didn't ignore that feeling, he had the coin checked, and what came back changed everything. It wasn't just a quarter anymore, it was a rare double die, and after auction, it brought in thousands, from a coin he almost overlooked. Now think about this, how many quarters have passed through your hands this week, how many did you not even glance at, how many could have had that tiny doubling, that one hidden detail separating it from being just 25 cents. This is why it's urgent, because coins like this are still out there, right now, being spent, ignored, dropped into vending machines, because people assume they're all the same, and that assumption is where the opportunity lives. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it look better, because the moment you touch that surface the wrong way, you can destroy the value instantly, leave it exactly as you found it. Because the difference between pocket change, and thousands of dollars, can come down to a tiny shadow on a number, a slight doubling in a letter, something most people would never notice unless they stopped and really looked. But here's the part that should really grab your attention, the 1977 quarter is just the beginning. There's another coin out there, even rarer, even more valuable, hiding in plain sight, and when people finally recognize it, they can't believe how long it sat unnoticed right in front of them. Top 8, wait, are you telling me a plain 1981 quarter, the kind people ignore in loose change, just sold for thousands of dollars, and nobody realized what it was until it was almost spent. It doesn't look special, not even a little, just a 1981 Washington quarter, dull gray, slightly worn, maybe sitting in a jar or tucked into your car's cup holder right now, the kind of coin you wouldn't even bend down to pick up twice. But here's where it gets interesting. 1981 is one of those years collectors quietly watch, because while most coins from that year are common, a few extremely rare ones slipped through with details so subtle, most people never notice them. Picture this, a cashier in New Jersey is counting out her tips after a long shift, quarters, nickels, nothing exciting, until one 1981 quarter catches her eye for just a second longer than the rest, not shinier, not newer, just different somehow. She almost shrugs it off, almost throws it into the pile, but curiosity wins. She takes a closer look at the mint mark, that tiny letter near Washington's ponytail, and that's when everything changes. Because here's the hidden secret, in 1981, quarters were minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, but some rare proof coins, especially those with deep mirror-like finishes or struck with exceptional detail, were never meant for circulation, yet a few somehow escaped. Now listen carefully, because this is what you need to check right now. Grab a 1981 quarter, don't wait, your wallet, your drawer, anywhere you keep spare change, and look closely near Washington's neck for a tiny D. If it's there, you've got a Denver coin. If not, it's Philadelphia, but that's just the beginning. Now tilt the coin under a bright light, slowly, watch the surface. If it looks unusually reflective, almost like a mirror, with sharp, frosty details on Washington's face and the lettering, you might be looking at a proof coin that somehow ended up in circulation. Next, examine the details, the word Liberty, the date 1981. In God we trust. If the edges of the letters look razor sharp, not soft or worn, that's another major clue, because regular circulation coins usually lose that crispness over time. Flip it over, look at the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If everything looks clean, deeply struck, almost like the coin was never meant to be used, you could be holding something collectors actively hunt for. And here's something most people completely miss: condition can change everything. Even a normal 1981 quarter in near perfect condition, what collectors call mint state, can sell for hundreds, sometimes more, because finding one that clean after decades is incredibly rare. That cashier, the one counting tips, she followed that instinct, had the coin checked, and what she thought was just spare change turned into a four-figure payday, all because she didn't ignore that tiny detail most people never notice. Now think about this. How many quarters have passed through your hands this week? How many did you not even glance at? How many 1981 coins you assumed were worthless, when one of them could have been the exact coin collectors are searching for right now? This is why it's urgent, because coins like this are still out there, mixed into everyday circulation, being spent, being ignored, because people don't expect anything valuable from the 1980s, and that assumption is where the opportunity hides. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it shine, because the moment you alter the surface, you can destroy the very features that make it valuable. Leave it exactly as it is. Because the difference between 25 cents and thousands of dollars can come down to a mirror-like shine, a tiny mint mark, a level of detail most people never even think to check. But here's where things get even more unbelievable. The 1981 quarter is just one piece of the puzzle. There's another coin, even rarer, even more valuable, hiding in plain sight, and when people finally realize what they've been holding, they can't believe they almost spent it. Top 9, wait, are you ready for this? A plain 1985 quarter, the kind you wouldn't even bother picking up off the ground, just turned into thousands of dollars, and most people would have spent it without blinking. It looks completely ordinary, a 1985 Washington quarter, dull gray, worn edges, maybe a little scratched from years of use, nothing shiny, nothing eye-catching, just another coin sitting quietly in your change right now. But here's the part that flips everything. 1985 is one of those years where the rare coins don't stand out, they hide, perfectly, blending in with millions of identical-looking quarters, and unless you know the secret, you'll never see it. Imagine this, A delivery driver in Ohio empties his pockets after a long day. Loose coins hit the table, mostly ignored, until one 1985 quarter catches his attention, not because it shines, but because something about the surface looks smoother, almost too clean. He almost shrugs it off, almost walks away, but curiosity pulls him back. He leans in, tilts the coin under a light, and suddenly, he notices something most people would miss completely. Because here's the hidden truth: some 1985 quarters were struck with proof-like qualities or contain rare mint errors, coins with mirror-like surfaces, double details, or incredibly sharp strikes, features that were never meant to show up in everyday circulation. Now this is where you need to act. Go grab a 1985 quarter right now. Don't wait. Check your wallet, your car, that jar you keep ignoring, because what you're about to look for could be sitting right in front of you. Start with the surface. Hold the coin under a bright light and tilt it slowly. If the background looks unusually reflective, almost like a mirror, while the design appears frosty or sharp, that's your first major clue you might have something rare. Next, check the details: the word Liberty, the date 1985. In God we trust. If the letters look crisp, bold, and unusually clean compared to a typical worn coin, that's another sign stacking up. Now focus on the mint mark. Look near Washington's ponytail. You might see a small D for Denver, or no mark for Philadelphia. But here's the key: if everything about the coin looks sharper than it should for its age, you could be looking at a proof-like or high-grade rarity. Flip it over. Study the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If the details pop out, almost like they were carved deeper than normal, that's another signal that this coin didn't come out like the rest. And here's something most people never think about: condition alone can make a massive difference. Even a regular 1985 quarter in near perfect condition, with almost no wear, can sell for hundreds, sometimes more, because finding one that clean after decades is incredibly rare. That delivery driver, the one who almost ignored the coin, he trusted that small feeling, got it checked, and what came back changed everything. That single quarter turned into thousands, all because he didn't overlook one tiny detail. Now think about your own life. How many coins you've handled, how many you didn't even look at, how many 1985 quarters passed through your hands without you ever noticing what they might be. This is why it matters right now, because coins like this are still out there, being spent, being ignored, being dropped into machines, because people assume anything from the 1980s is worthless, and that assumption is exactly why these treasures stay hidden. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it shine, because the moment you touch that surface the wrong way, you can destroy the value instantly. Leave it exactly as it is. Because the difference between 25 cents and thousands of dollars can come down to a mirror-like reflection, a sharper than normal detail, a tiny clue most people would never notice unless they stopped and looked closely. But here's the part that should really make you pause: the 1985 quarter isn't even the rarest coin hiding in your change. There's another one, even more valuable, even harder to spot, and when people finally realize what they've been holding, they can't believe they almost let it go. Top 10, wait, a 1998 quarter, yes, a modern one you probably used this week, just turned into thousands of dollars, and almost nobody noticed it until it was nearly gone. It looks completely normal, a 1998 Washington quarter, nothing old, nothing silver, just that everyday gray coin with George Washington on the front, and the familiar eagle on the back, the kind you'd spend without even thinking twice. But here's the part that makes collectors stop everything. 1998 is one of those sneaky years where rare mint errors hide inside millions of ordinary coins, and unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll miss it every single time. Picture this: a grocery store worker in Pennsylvania is counting her register at the end of a shift, coins sliding across the counter, nothing special, until one 1998 quarter catches her eye, not because it shines, but because something about the letters looks strange. She leans closer, tilts it under the light, and suddenly, she sees it. The word Liberty doesn't look right, it looks thicker, almost doubled, like there's a faint shadow hugging each letter, and that tiny detail changes everything. Because here's the secret: some 1998 quarters have what collectors call a double die error, where the design was stamped slightly off twice, creating a subtle but powerful doubling effect, and when it's strong enough, those coins can sell for hundreds, even thousands depending on condition. Now this is your moment, go grab a 1998 quarter right now, seriously, check your wallet, your car, your couch cushions, because what you're about to look for is so easy to miss, but impossible to ignore once you see it. Start with the front, look closely at the word Liberty, don't just glance, really look. If the letters seem bold, slightly blurred, or doubled along the edges, like a ghost image sitting beside them, that's your first major clue. Next, check the phrase, "In God We Trust," tilt the coin slowly under a bright light, watch how the letters behave. If they look layered, or slightly duplicated, that's another strong signal you might have a rare error coin. Now move to the date. 1998, focus especially on the 9 and the 8, if you see any kind of doubling, even a faint one, like the numbers were stamped twice, that's where things start getting serious. Flip it over, look at the eagle, the feathers, the arrows. If the details appear unusually sharp or show signs of doubling in certain areas, that's more evidence stacking in your favor. And here's something most people completely overlook, condition is everything. Even a normal 1998 quarter in near perfect condition, with crisp details and almost no wear, can bring in surprising money because collectors want coins that look untouched. That grocery worker, she trusted that small detail, had the coin checked, and what came back wasn't just confirmation, it was a payout, turning a single quarter into thousands, all because she didn't ignore what looked slightly off. Now think about this, how many quarters have passed through your hands this week, how many 1998 coins you didn't even glance at, how many could have had that tiny doubling, that hidden detail separating it from being just 25 cents. This is why it's urgent, because coins like this are still out there, right now, being spent, being ignored, being dropped into vending machines, because people assume modern coins can't be valuable, and that assumption is exactly why these treasures stay hidden. And whatever you do, don't clean it, don't polish it, don't try to make it look better, because the moment you damage that surface, you can destroy the value instantly, leave it exactly as it is. Because the difference between pocket change, and thousands of dollars, can come down to a tiny shadow on a letter, a slight doubling most people would never even notice unless they stopped and looked closely. But here's where things get even crazier, the 1998 quarter is just the beginning, there's another modern coin, even more valuable, hiding in plain sight, and when people finally spot it, they don't just get excited, they can't believe they almost spent it without ever knowing.